Hey everybody, thank you for visiting the channel, Past, Present, Future Gnosis. It's your host, Past, Present, Future, and let's get straight right into it. So now, I've been really wanting to make this video concerning the King James Bible. As we all know, in the States, the main language is English. So how fitting is it that the King James Bible was translated in 1601 through 1603 4 through 1611 into English, and that this was the most one of the most used Bibles across the states, and I want to say in the English speaking world. So you can see the importance of this Bible that it has upon the normal person that actually studies Christianity, Catholicism, if you say. But if you watched my prior video when it comes to the hidden message in Isaiah, I showed you the verse when it pertains to Lucifer coming down, and that there was actually astronomy slash astrology derived right into the Bible. And you can watch that video. Please do, because this is actually going to be connecting towards that other video. So if you watch that, you'll have a little bit reference. And if you didn't, I would say stop and watch that video before continuing here. But but I'll continue. And then it just strikes me as weird, as if you've studied the Bible, which I hope you have, you know that all this is heresy. Astronomy and astrology is all heresy. But clear as day, if you do your etymology and you do your history, you'll actually see that what he's saying is just a parable, what I would say, referencing the king of Babylon to Lucifer, aka the star Venus, which I showed you again in my next video. So all this is really concerning when you take back and look to it. So, and all this, like I said, is all in the King James Version Bible. You can all look at it yourself. But what concerns me the most is people don't know certain facts when it comes to King James and actually the history of the Bible. Because I've heard, because I came from a church background, and everybody spoke so highly about King James, saying that this is the perfect Bible. He has everything perfect. It comes to the Revelations and what John and Mark and Luke and everything. So this is the front-running Bible for all the English-speaking people. And then when you do your research, you'll actually see some concerning things pertaining to King James, and that's what hurts me, is because I'm over here looking like, anybody do their research about King James? I'm like, this saying that he was ordained or touched by God to write this perfect version of the Bible into English. But then again, as I explained in my prior videos, the main language that was used at this time was Latin, of course, with the Latin Vulgate that we get from who else but Rome, the Catholic Rome Church, of course. So you see, when you do translations, things are going to get mistranslated, of course, and there's no shadow of a doubt. So that's why I try to pertain everybody and to alliterate that if you're reading the English, I'm going to say it right now, if you're reading the English version today, right now, the King James Version, you're not getting the correct version. You're getting copies upon copies upon copies upon copies. And with these copies comes mistranslations, because as I said in my prior videos, you know about the Greek Septuagint that we used rapidly throughout the 300 BCE all the way to 300 CE, through almost to the Council of Nicaea, which actually the Council of Nicaea actually used bits and pieces of the Septuagint and the Latin Vulgate, of course, to actually put all these books together. So just to throw that out there. But my main concern in all of this, and I mean all of this, is where King James derived all of this from. Why was Why do we even have a King James version? And remember, listen to what I just said. King James version. What does version mean? Their perspective or their outlook on a certain thing. So you can see clearly in the title. I mean, I know that's just like a little bit of info, but any sane person can see, like, why is it his version? Isn't it supposed to be like the Word of God? But I digress. And then everybody thinks that he was the first one to translate it into English, but he's actually not the first. But one of the first pioneers in all of this is actually John Wycliffe, to be exact. John Wycliffe, he was born 1330 to 1384. He was an English theologian, priest, and scholar, recognized as a forerunner to the Protestant Reformation in Europe. Wycliffe condemned the practices of the medieval church, citing many of the same abuses that would later be addressed by other reformers. He is best known for translating the Bible into Middle English. So when people say that the King James Version was the first to translate English, that's wrong. Actually, John Wycliffe was. But as you see around this time, this, of course, translating this version of the Bible was heresy, of course. And when it comes to his death, I mean, like, it's crazy, people, actually. Because actually dug up his remains in like 1428 after his death, burning through into the river Swift. And they actually used some of his heresy, his interpretation of the Bible, to use it as flames to freaking burn his body, to burn his remains of his body. So that in it is just crazy in itself. But then we can have the King James version translated in English without no issue or anything like that. But then you're going to have people say that, well, maybe he didn't translate it right. But as you'll see, King James didn't translate it right also. Because as we know, the King James Version was actually re-advised. They actually revised it in 1881. And this is news to people. Did you guys know that it was revised in 1881? And as I said, with the revisionization of it, things are getting changed again. And once again, I try to explain this to people. Things aren't supposed to get changed. Remember in the verses, if anything gets changed, it's just by death, right? So just that, you already have that going. So I just try to portray this to people that if you don't do your history, you're not going to know any of this at all. But I want to continue because it's just going to get even deeper than that. So when you're getting into all of this and you're doing your research, because I promise you, the truth will come to the light, you kind of get to the point where you look at the church, the Roman Catholic Church, of course. And then looking into it, I'm wondering the word church, because as I explained to you, if you don't understand, if you don't go all the way back into one of its original languages, as in Greek and Hebrew, because yes, the Hebrew Bible, Old Testament, was translated into Greek by Ptolemy II of Philadelphia. But as I'll show you the video where you guys can get that, because there's just too much. I only have a limited time, so if you want to watch that video, you can. But then, if you look into the etymology of church, you'll find something really interesting. Because when you look into it, the word church actually derives from the Scottish word kirk, which is actually from the Scottish church, as you see here. And then, as I keep pushing forward, what does this word kirk mean in Greek? And then once you see that we get the word kirk is just the Scottish and former Northern English word meaning for church, which also specifically of the Church of Scotland. Many places name and personal names are also derived from. So that was really interesting figuring that out. So then, like I say, I go into it in Greek, and then that's when it just blew my mind that Kirk, they got the word Kirk actually from a deity. Yes. And I'll show you this deity here. Circe, ancient Greek, keeping it pronounced Kirk. Remember, I just showed you that the word church derived from this word Kirk, a Scottish word Kirk in Northern English, meaning church. So remember, you gotta do your etymology, ladies and gentlemen. I can't make this up, but I'm gonna continue. Is an enchantress and a minor goddess in ancient Greek mythology and religion. I told you guys once again, you gotta follow Greek. The Greeks are gonna have one of the biggest roles, excuse me, when it comes to the Old Testament and the New Testament. As I explained to you, they were both written in Korean Greek. So if you don't know about the Greeks, you're gonna miss all of this. But let me continue. She is either a daughter of the Titan Helios and the Oceanic nymph Perse, or the goddess Hecate Aedes. So she was renowned for her vast knowledge of potions and herbs. Through the use of these and a magic wand or staff, told you they practiced magic around this time too, during the Hellenistic age, where Greek was conquering other nations and bestowing their beliefs into the other cultures. So don't forget about that. I can't stress that enough. She would transform her enemies or those who offended her into animals. The best known of her legends is told in Homer's Odyssey when Odysseus visits her island in Aea on the way back from the Trojan War, as she changes most of his crew into swine. He manages to persuade her to return them to the human shape, lies with her for a year, and has sons by her, including Latinus and Telegonus. Her ability to change others and animals is further highlighted by the story of Pecuus, an Italian king whom she turns into a woodpecker for resisting her advances. Another story tells of her falling in love with the sea god Glaucus, who referred the nymph Scylla to her. In revenge, Circe poisoned the water where her rival bathed and turned her into a dreadful monster. So now, after showing you guys that, and I'm not even finished yet, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not even close to revealing all of this in this video, but just for the things that I've just shown you, and like I said, I'm barely 10 minutes in this video. The word church derives from a Scottish word, kirk, which means church. And then when you do your etymology and then find out what kirk means in Greek, and that now that it falls into a freaking Greek goddess, I mean, come on. Again, if you're watching my prior videos, I can't stress this enough. There is in the Bible parables strictly and Greek mythology, Egyptian mythology, Roman mythology derived and clicked straight into the Bible, all the way back to the Septuagint, going all the way down to the King James Version. And I forgot to astrology also. And if you just know how to decode all this, you can see that it's in front of you. That's why I can't stress this enough. It's a parable, ladies and gentlemen. It's just strictly a parable. You can't just be reading this and just take everything literally. No, because there are people, affiliation groups, that actually know about these parables and actually deciphering the hidden codes that are in there, which are in there. It's just, you just need to know how to decipher it. But I know that's not going to be enough for some people. Most people are going to be like, oh, well, maybe you're connecting some dots. I mean, I guess, but okay. And I'm glad, because then I get to go on and refute my case and to show my case when it comes to all of this. So if that didn't get you, I mean, let's just keep on going. So now I actually want to talk about more about the King James Bible, and let's get right into it and actually Look at the pages. I'm going to use the scriptures only. All right, so as we see here, so here it is. King James Version, 1604 to 1611. Let's start right here in the beginning. To the most high and mighty, Prince Iams. Wait, what? Where's the J at? You see, there was no J's, people. There was no J's before 1580. Why the heck is everybody calling him Jesus or James? Come on, people. This is why I get furious. Do the research. It's Prince Iams. Just like Jesus. You can't call him Jesus. There was no J's around this time. Come on, people. Stop with it, man. Do your research. I'm done with people that don't do this. His name was Iusis. The very first edition of the King James, printed in 1611 AD, contained no J's. I repeat, ladies and gentlemen, no J's, not even one. Instead, the letter I is used for Jews, Jesus, Joshua, Ahona, John, and a person pronounced I instead. So it would have been Iua, Iozus, Ioshua, Iona, and Ion. So there it is. Boom, ladies and gentlemen, this long debated freaking word. And you thought his name was Jesus. See, this is what happened when you let people teach you or give you all your information and they don't tell you to do your due diligence. I mean, come on, look, go online right now. You could stop this right now. You're going to see for yourselves. The J was not even invented in here. Look at the verse. Look at the book. Go to the book. Go find yourself a King James version before it was re-advised in 1800s. Look at it and you're going to see there, King Iams. They revised it because they added the J later on. After that, it was actually used throughout history around like the 1700s. I want to say 16 through 1700. So plain is there to see, people. And then that's why I look at people confused with a smirk on my face when you're still calling him this. And this is what I said. If you don't go back, and I mean way back, to either Greek or Hebrew, you're not going to do this. You're not going to find any of this. It's because you don't do your research. You just sit there Sunday, let the servant, let him talk to you, and then you go home. You don't even read the book. You don't even open it, and you don't do research or historical research. I mean, come on, people. But I just wanted to show that because I know a lot of people right now never even heard of this. This is the first time they heard this. That's why I said you have to watch out for the English version because, once again, you're not getting a proper translation for a shadow and a doubt. But just want to prove this to you people that you need to do your research. Please stop sitting there letting people give you information and you're just soaking it all in, but don't do your diligence. You have phones. Come on. You carry this thing 24/7. This thing never leaves your sides. I know it doesn't. You're telling me that you praise all this and you do all this, but you can't even do your research? Come on, you have a mind. Use it. And this is a one big thing for my channel. I want you to use critical thinking. I praise people for using your mind. Stop. We all came here. Come on, we all have a mind for ourselves. We can think for ourselves. Use your head. Critical thinking and research. It's not that hard, people. It's just people are lazy. That's what I found out. People are lazy. They're too busy playing video games, watching football, watching basketball, but they can't get any of this knowledge into themselves. They can't soak it in like a sponge. And the reason I push this is because I was there. I was indoctrinated myself too. But until I went within myself and had questions, and I was just like, you know what? Let me just do my homework and research into this. I believe this so much, then I should be able to prove it. And then when you do your research, a lot of things come to light. And I see a lot of people, they get scared and they just run. They run back. It takes a strong mind to just keep pushing. If you see discrepancies, keep pushing. Why not? And that's where I've come. And I kept pushing. And trust me, I was scared in the beginning. Like when I did the other that other video when it came to Isaiah, man, I was scared. Man, trying to like look into that verse in the Lucifer. And then I found out like there was no Lucifer. They're talking about Venus, talking about astrology, ladies and gentlemen. But I'm sorry that I had to have that little segue. It just hurts me when I see people that walk this earth and then they don't want to do any research, and it's like they're just all indoctrinated and then single-minded. They see some other information and they're just quick to shut it down if it goes against their belief. And if you heard of the flight or flight reflex, that is true. Man, that is true. But anywho, just wanted to show you guys that. But yeah, let's continue. And what also gets me is the Jehovah Witness. Don't even get me started. As I just showed you about the J, wasn't even invented around this time. So how are you guys calling him Jehovah? It's not his name. You're telling me that you guys had this doctrination for so long, fairly new. I'll give him that. And y'all didn't do your research and see that the J wasn't invented wasn't used into circulation until like the later 1600s, 1700s, around a printing press and further back. I mean, come on. If there's any Jehovah's Witness watching this video, explain this to me. How are y'all still using the J? I don't get it. And this is no attack. I promise you, this is no attack to anybody. I'm not trying to down people or make fun of. No, my point into this is wake up. Do the research. Stop it. Don't come debating and talking about history when you don't even know true history or don't even open up a book. Come on, open a book. Do the research, people. Stop. So, yeah, that's just really weird to me then with all these discrepancies when it comes to the Jehovah Witness. So, just want to point that out to them. So now showing you all of that, because I know it won't be enough. I want to show you, go into historical detail, because as I said, history doesn't lie, people. You just got to find it. I want to dive deep into more of why this version, the King James Version, came to be. We already had, if you didn't know, we already had the Bishop's Bible, too, going on, but for some reason the King James Version came out and actually was a big proponent into the evolution of the English version of the King James Bible, where it was actually available for everybody to use. So now I want to get into the making and why the making of the King James Bible came to be. So let's get right into it. And there's actually another book that I want to show you guys that you guys can buy yourself. It's called The King James Bible Controversy. Find it on Amazon, but I'll continue here. Ever since the late 1950s, when modern language translations of the Bible began flooding the market, the King James Version has stood at the center of controversy that has only increased in volume. While all these new translations, why fix something that's not broken? Critics of newer translations range from those who complain they are of poor quality to those who accuse translators of deliberately distorting scriptures. Arguments about the relative quality of Bible translations are hardly new, but some push issues past any reasonable limits, finding fault with modern language translations, accusing them of corrupting scripture, of undermining iosis, remember, no J's, Iosus, or the Holy Spirit's divinity, of removing words or of inserting New Age or even satanic philosophy, and their actions are often as radical as their rhetoric. So there's multiple people talking about this too, ladies and gentlemen. Just to say books out there, but you won't know this unless you look for it and do the research. So just chiming in there real quick. So now, before I get into that, I actually have a little segment that I had to put in because, as I just explained, I love doing my research and I want to give you guys the reference, so I'm not just spouting anything. I want you all to, I always have to always give you all my references so you all could do your research. And what book I want to point out a lot is Roman Hellenism and the New Testament. It's a great read. This is a great read, ladies and gentlemen. This is where I found some information for. You can get it online, Amazon. But I actually want to read a page from this book right now, as I'm going to show you here. It's page 116, Roman Hellenism and the New Testament. This is going to be good, guys. For this reason, the New Testament student ought to know Greek literature, all of it, and he should steep his mind in it year in, year out. Ooh, that's deep, ladies and gentlemen, and you'll see why. As a noble Renaissance scholar said, one can never get too much Greek. The meaning of the words in the New Testament is partially derived from the common or Korean Greek spoken throughout the Roman Empire in the first century, and partially from the inherited literature of the classical age. Like I told you guys, Korean Greek was in mass production right now, even into the New Testament. Just telling you, in the 5th and 4th centuries before Christ. It was also influenced by the use made of Greek by the translators of the Old Testament. Ooh, they knew Greek too, because they had the Greek Septuagint. If you haven't watched that video, the video's there, guys. From about 250 BC onwards, and by the Greco-Jewish writers, especially in Alexandria, one can find these meanings listed in lexicon, chiefly the Great Lexicon of Prussian and Bure, now translated and revised by the Professor Ardent Greenwich, 1956, and in the Ketos Theologius, Rebura zum Neuen Testament, of which a few articles have been translated into English, but I am speaking about something even more important. In line beneath the philological history and analysis of language, I mean the ideas. Now, this is where it gets important, ladies and gentlemen. This is it. There are certain religious ideas found in Greek literature which are simply indispensable for the interpretation of the New Testament as well as the Old. Not done yet. What he's saying is you need to learn Greek literature if you want to understand the Old and New Testament. But let's keep going. Of course, there really are there in the Bible, but the ordinary reader is not likely to see them when he reads only the Bible without the parallel literature of Greece, casting bright shafts of lateral light from a distance. Once more, we are reminded of the observation there are only two religions whose history is adequately documented: the ancient Hebrew and the ancient Greek. They illustrate each other repeatedly. So again, people, as I said, there's numerous scholars that spent their whole career researching this. And one of them is Frederick C. Grant. And again, I'll show you the book, Roman Hellenism and the New Testament. And if you take the time and read this, I promise you'll give you more insight when it came to Hellenization and how it had a big role when it came to the making of the Old Testament and the New Testament, which I showed you was written down in Greek. So just want to have to give you that segue in there so I can give you guys more context to help evaluate my case when it comes to the King James Version and to practically all of this. So just wanted to get that out here, but let's continue on with the history of the making of the King James Bible. So now, to really understand all of this, we need to go way back. I mean, way back. And to give you a gist of things, I'm going to be running through this a little quickly. I will be giving you information, of course, but I'm going to run through it just a little quickly because I'm a little bit strapped on time. But I promise you, as I give you all this information, you can do more research into it so you can see more into it. But I'll give you the gist so you can kind of understand it. So don't forget, do your own research also following into all of this. So let's start with the Great Schism of the East and West. And we'll start here. East and West Schism, also called Schism of 1054, event that precipitated the final separation between the Eastern Christian churches led by the Patriarch of Constantinople, Michael Colossius, and the Western Church led by Pope Leo IX. The mutual excommunications by the Pope and the Patriarchs in 1054 became a watershed in the Church's history. The excommunications were not lifted until 1965, when Pope Paul VI and the Patriarch Athenagoras I followed their historic meeting in Jerusalem in 1964, presided over the simulation ceremonies that revoked the excommunication decrees. The relationship of the Byzantine Church to the Roman may be described as one of the growing estrangements from the 5th to the 11th century. And to just chime in to give you a sum up, they couldn't agree when it came to the theology, when it came to Jesus, and about the Holy Trinity, certain ceremonies. So you can see how this was damning because the West ruled by Rome, of course, and then we got the East that's holding on more to the Greek philosophy. Were butting heads. So this is why the separation kind of started, to be honest with you, if you do a little research on it. And to show you just a little bit segment before we move on, from Britannica, the theological genius of the East was different from that of the West. The Eastern theology had its roots in Greek philosophy, whereas a great deal of the Western theology was based on the Roman law. This gave rise to the misunderstanding and at least led to the two widely separate ways of regarding and defining one important doctrine, the procession of the Holy Spirit from the Father or from the Father and the Son. So once again, showing that they were all on different pages. They weren't on the same page. And this is another thing, and this actually goes to another video that I'm working on, actually, where it came to the early Christians, and actually they were actually pagans too, to be exact, and their viewpoint when it comes to the Old Testament. And you'll see why that different sects started to emerge around the 30th century, or kind of to the first, go to the 30th, and all this Gnosticism derives from. And I'm working on that video, so please stay tuned on that. But yeah, let's continue. So after the submission of clergy, and I showed you that the West, the Roman side of the church, in the East, the Byzantine Empire, were bumping heads and couldn't agree. That came around. And then what played a big role into all of this was the First Act of Supremacy in 1534, as I'll show you a little here. The Act of Supremacy was passed on November 3rd, 1534. Henry VIII, by the Paramount of England, it granted King Henry VIII of England and subsequent monarchs royal supremacy, and that he was declared the supreme head of Church of England. Royal supremacy is specifically used to describe the legal sovereignty of the civil laws over the laws of the Church in England. And to dive in right here, if I just showed you that, the first portion, it showed you that they made the laws, ladies and gentlemen. Again, I thought he was supposed to be ordained by God. He's supposed to have the perfect versions, supposed to be God intervening with him. But no, this is man making laws and seeing them through. So I just wanted to show you that this is them putting their own little, I know you can see that, man, own little seasoning into things, man. And just, that should just be another question right there. And you just step back and be like, oh, wow, okay. I didn't know that. Yes, this is documented. They chose this. So don't want to stress this enough. But let's get back into it. The act declared that the king was the only supreme head on earth of the Church of England, and that the crown shall enjoy all honors, dignities, permissions, jurisdictions, privileges, authorities, immunities, profits, that's money, people, and commodities to the said dignity. The wording of the act made clear that Paramount was not granting the king the title, thereby suggesting but they had the right to withdraw it later. Rather, it was acknowledging an established fact. In an act of supremacy, Henry abandoned Rome completely. He thereby asserted the independence of the Ecclesian Anglian. He appointed himself, remember, he appointed himself and his successors as the supreme rulers of the English Church. Earlier, Henry has been declared defender of the faith in 1521 by Pope Leo X for his pamphlet accusing Martin Luther of heresy. Paramount later confirmed this title upon Henry in 1544. The Act 1534 Acts made the beginning of the English Reformation. There were a number of reasons for this act, primarily the need for a male heir to the throne. Henry tried for years to obtain an annuity of his marriage to Catherine of Aragon. And I want to take a little segment, Catherine of Aragon. They actually made a show. Right now you could watch on Netflix, and I'm kind of glad I waited a little bit because, man, they gave so much more insight when it came to King Henry VIII and his dealing with women. And, man, guys, I try to tell you, man, they were ruthless back in the day. Jeez, man, that's over here like, dang. And ladies, you should really take this on, like, man, this king looked at you as a vessel. If you couldn't give him a male heir, off with their heads. I mean, it's not funny, but it's just crazy how these people thought back in the day. And like, it's all justified. Because remember, he gave himself all the power to do whatever he wanted. Not by God. Man made this rule. So, but anyway, just to give back, if you want a little bit more depth when it came to her, because Catherine was a big component when it came to King Henry VIII and his decision of moving away from the church, a female. You see what you ladies do to us? You make us do crazy things. And that's power, guys. Just want to say that's power, man, what these ladies can do to us. But yeah, what's interesting is this, I don't want to ruin it, but please watch it because all I got to say is her daughter that was born because she wasn't able to get a male. Sorry to ruin it, that part, but look into her daughter that she produced, and it's just going to blow your mind entirely. But just wanted to point that out. And it's on Netflix now, so you can take a look at it. But let's continue. And had convicted himself that God was punishing him for marrying his brother's widow. Pope Clement VII refused to grant the annulment because, according to Roman Catholic teaching, a vedly contracted marriage is indissoluble until death, and thus the Pope cannot annul a marriage simply because of a canonical impediment previously dispensed. The Treason Act was later passed. It provided that disavow the act of supremacy and to deprive the king of his dignity, title, or name was to be considered treason. The most famous public figure to resist the treason was Sir Thomas More. So again, people, this is not him being preordained, and all of this for his big separation from the church. One of the big components was he wanted to get a divorce and switch it up and get a different wife. And dang, I mean, like, hey, if you can't provide one, then what can I say? But again, it's just crazy how they made all these decisions back in the day, and that this was one of the big catapults from them separating themselves from Rome and having their own church embodied into England, and stop working out with Rome, with Catholic Rome, because honestly, you can't be going around and praising Jesus, Iusus, I should say, and then spreading all this doctrine, because we know about the Crusades, which I know I need to make a video, but if you know about the Crusades were just going out and killing other factions that wasn't going with the Roman Church, the Roman Catholic Church. It's proven, it's in books, And you can all look this up. And I hate when I see, when it comes to some Christians telling me that the word of God was passed away, was passed nicely. No, no. It was actually spread by conquest, defeating your opponents, just like Alexandria, just like Hellenism, Greek Hellenism. It was the same way. You beat these people, you go to this area, and you're changing their religion. This is doing, and for their eyes, this is the new religion. Get with it or get destroyed. And this is throughout history, people. So don't come to me and telling me how everything was spread, all josty, goody. No, it wasn't. It was passed through blood and the conquest of natives. Point blank, and people that didn't want to have the Pope as the lead of the church because they dictated everything and they wouldn't let people have their own personal relationship. And that's what it's about, isn't it? As I said, why are we having these people having all the authority? But anyway, didn't want to get too much on that. Let's continue because I know I'm strapped for time. So now, with the Protestant Reformation, what they wanted to do was get rid of anything that had to dealing with Rome, when it came to asking them for anything at all, when it came to the Bible, taxes, money. They wanted to separate themselves entirely. So we all know that happened with all the acts of two, but I just said 1534. And then in 1539, we get the Great Bible from King Henry VIII. And who made this was mostly the Protestants that helped make it to give us this Bible. And remember, this is their ruling now. They get to decide the canon. They get to dictate what's in it and what's not in it. So please don't forget that. As I said earlier into my video, when it came to the submission of clergy, this is their going now. So just want to get that. And then with the Great Bible, actually, most of them that actually left, they actually came and actually made the Geneva Bible in 1560. And if you do your research on the Geneva Bible, you see that actually named the Pope the Antichrist. It's actually the one with the first with the with the sidelines that we have today, where it's on the sides, it shows you the quotations and the marks like John chapter 11:4, and it gives you the most detailed section of it. Well, this was used too, and then if you read it, they actually named the Pope the Antichrist. But you could see why. But again, that's another thing that was changed again and added in to these versions of the Bibles. Copies upon copies upon copies, ladies and gentlemen. But as I said, if you have everybody reading the Great Bible, the Geneva Bible, apologize, and it's naming the Pope by the Antichrist, you could see with normal people reading this wouldn't go too well. So with Queen Elizabeth coming into the stage, they had to fix all this and give us a new Bible. How many Bibles are we going to get? And now I want to show you a little excerpt when it comes to the Bishop's Bible. As I'll show you here. The Bishop's Bible was first published in 1568, but then was reissued in extensively revised form in 1572. In a revision, a number of switches were made to the New Testament in a direction of more ecclesiastical language. There it is again. How much more proof do I have to show you? Another change to these Bibles that aren't supposed to be changed over and over and over again. I know you guys must get tired of me saying copies on copies on copies, but if I don't say this, then you won't see it. These are just facts, ladies and gentlemen. Introducing the term charity into 1 Corinthians 13, but otherwise to bring the text more into the line with the found in the Geneva Bible and the Old Testament. The Psalms from the Great Bible were printed alongside those in the New Translation, which had proved impossible to sing. And I want to continue a little bit further down. The text lacked most of the notes and cross-references in the Geneva Bible, which contained much controversial theology, what I just told you guys about. It was named. They named the Pope the Antichrist in that Bible, straight up. Helpful to people among whom the Bible was just beginning to circulate in the vernacular. The last edition of the complete Bible was issued in 1602. That's 3 times it was revised, ladies and gentlemen. But the New Testament was reissued until at least 1617. William Funk published several parallel editions up to the 1633. Ooh, remember that word parallel. I keep bringing that back words. Parables, ladies and gentlemen. With the New Testament of the Bishop's Bible alongside the Reims New Testament, specifically to convert, the latter's polemical notions. The Bishop's Bible or its New Testament went through over 50 editions, whereas the Geneva Bible was reprinted more than 150 times. I mean, come on, ladies and gentlemen. 150 times before they got it right. Yo, I'm over here thinking like they're just texting like, oh dang, I forgot something. Let's revise the whole Bible, add some more. Oh dang, I forgot something. Let's revise the Bible and do some more. Come on. I can't even like stress this enough, people. You're not doing the research. You have to be strict about this. And you're going to find information that's going to go against your ideology, and that's fine. This is the breaking down of all this doctrination that you had, and you have to build yourself back up. But most people are scared about this. They think everything's plain and cycle. Everything that they learned is right. History that they learned was right. Nothing can go against it. But no, when you find something that contradicts your thinking, most people just stop. And that's what separates me from the rest of these people. I kept pushing because I just found out this is the truth. Why wasn't I told this? And that's why I'm saying they don't want you to research this stuff. Point blank, period. They want you to stay sane, keep a level headed. Don't look this way. Stay right here. Pay attention right here. I don't want you darting away, because when you dart away, you start questioning things. And when you start questioning things, I mean, as Lil Wayne said, the sky is the limit. So, just wanted to show you guys this. This is facts that you could all look up. Everybody can do this. I'm not someone that's 10-year historian. No, I'm a freak. All I am is just a person that wants to know the truth. Ma'at. If you know Egyptian mythology, you know Ma'at represents truth above all else. And that's all I want. No matter how hard the truth is or how damning the truth is. I'd rather have the truth than be sugar-coated, if you catch my drift. I want no sugar coats. I want the truth. The truth hurts, ladies and gentlemen. It's what you do with that truth that defines you. So just want to say, you can all do this yourself. You just have to push through all of this. They put things in your way so you can stop and run back. That's what they're doing. You have to keep pushing. So, so let's continue. So now, going into 1602, after the Bishop's Bible has been revised over 150 times, you can see when King James comes around, and then yet again, another issues with the Bible. Ladies and gentlemen, they just couldn't agree on certain things, so they just wanted to switch it up. And here comes the making of the King James, and I'll show you a little insert here so you can do the research too. The translators of the King James versions were instructed to take the 1602 edition of the Bishop's Bible as their basis. Although several other existing translations were taken into account, after it was published in 1611, the King James Version soon took the Bishop's Bible place as the de facto standard of the Church of England. Later judgment of the Bishop's Bible has not been favorable. As I said, they couldn't agree on certain things that was in there. David Daniel, in his important edition of William Tyndale's New Testament, states that the Bishop's Bible was and is not loved. Where it reprints the Geneva, it is acceptable, but most of the original work is incomplete, both in its scholarship and its verbosity. So as you see, they didn't agree any of this, so they wanted to make another one. So then after all of this, we get into 1604, the Hampton Court Conference. And we're getting there, ladies and gentlemen. We're about to see the vision of the King James Bible in the making. So now, in January 1604, we had the Hampton Court Conference. And it was a discussion between King James I of England and the representatives of the Church of England, including leading English Puritans. The conference results in the 1604 Book of Common Prayer, and in 1611, the King James Version of the Bible was given to the people. So now, this is how this was all created and a little bit of the back history. I missed a little bit, don't get me wrong, but I feel like these were the most strong indications when it came to the creation of the King's Bible version. No, there was no spirit put on King James and the writers of the book to do some masterful translation. No, they were just worried about the predecessory books given not enough information, wrong information that they didn't agree on, or they just wanted to change things entirely and fit it to their ideology. So there it is, ladies and gentlemen. And another thing about the King James Version that most people won't even know, that the Apocrypha was not in the King James Version, and it never was considered to be in there. And we all know how important Apocrypha was. Like, come on, people. If you don't do your research, you're not going to see any of this. And this is the book of wisdom. So it's another fact that most people won't tell you about it unless you go look out for it yourself. So now, all of this I just showed you, all that you can all research yourself, is just really alarming. And this is things that I found out doing my research myself, doing my due diligence. So again, this isn't me trying to attack nobody, throw them underneath the bus. No, it's just I want people to use critical thinking and to just use their mind. Use your head, people. Come on. All this information is there for you. All factual, real history. As I said, you have to go outside. You can't just see something that contradicts your ideology and then run back into the Bible. You can't do that. And that's what I see most people do. And that's what's going to keep getting you locked into this cycle. And I want to end this cycle. I'm finished with it. But again, I hope this catches you guys. And I deliver this information. You don't have to believe everything I say. I give you the information. Please do your research. So I wanted to bring this to your all attentions because I've heard so much when it came to King James and it being the perfect version. And as I showed you, it ain't so perfect. And then when it came to all these revisions and changes in the Bible, missing this word, adding this word, it just gets out of hand, people. Again, I'm going to end it close to this. If you're reading the English translation in the Americas right now, you're not getting the correct translation. So take that. Trust me, there's more videos that I'll be making. I'm actually working on another one which I brought to you earlier about the Gnostics and their viewpoints. But to end this video, and I hope that you watch all the way towards the end, because this is the last information that I want to put out about King James. Because if you didn't know, King James is a Mason. No ifs, ands about it. And if you know the Masons, you know they have a secret agenda and that they have their hands around a bunch of operations. And I can't talk too much because I'm going to leave all that information for my big reveal video when it comes to the Masons, because you'd be surprised the hidden hands that operate around this world and how these Masons have a control over it. And after you see this video, there will be no shadow of a doubt that we all know that there's something to these Masons. And I'm working on that one too. It's going to be one of my deepest videos. Please give me some time, because there's just so much information that you guys are going to it's going to blow your mind. It blew my mind how you forget all these people played a part. Which people played a part in all of this too. But as I'm showing you now, a Mason, a Freemason, gave you your King James Version Bible. Plain as day. Look it up. As you just saw with the picture I showed you. Look it up yourself. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. That's why I said all this is questionable, because showed you the verses in the beginning with my prior video when it comes to Lucifer and the Lightbringer, explaining about Venus again. These are parables that they put in the Bible, so you don't understand it, but other groups can understand it, because they use it. Yeah, they use it. I'll show you in my next video. I'll stop there. I feel like I'm getting too much in it. I don't want to lose your attention, but yeah. So there it is, ladies and gentlemen. No one's gonna give it to you like this. No one's gonna give you this information, and it's all there for us to look up. So again, when it comes to things that people represent, please do your research. Don't just wave the banner and freaking follow something that you can't even commemorate. But again, thank you all for watching this video. I know this was a little bit long, but I had to get this out for you all. And more videos to come, and I appreciate you all for taking the time to watch these videos. It's a lot of work, as you see, but I got to get this information out, because I want to give this information to you all. I want to share all this. I'm not going to just keep it to myself like some YouTubers or some academics, philosophers, you know what I mean? I want to share this with you guys so we all can be enlightened. But thank you again for taking the time to watch this video. I appreciate you all, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Thank you.